I am on a quest to beat every game for the Nintendo Gamecube. Every single one. However, each game is chosen at random by this horrendous wheel, so we are never certain what's coming next. My name is Rami, and this is my quest to beat the entire Gamecube library. Game number 3 is Casper Spirit Dimensions. Released in 2002 for North America, this game was developed by the wonderfully named Lucky Chicken Games and published by TDK Media Active. It received mixed to negative reviews, and boy howdy are we going to talk about why that is. Also, just as a cute thing, we played this live on Halloween, but it may have been more of a trick than a treat. I find this whole thing pretty funny because I picked the GameCube because it just has an amazing library of games and ones that I really fondly remember as a kid. But so far we've played a fishing game, a Scooby-Doo game, and now a Casper game. The only mode on offer here is the story, so very simply we just have to beat the final boss. My only experience with Casper growing up was the 1995 movie. I actually rewatched it recently and it's still worth checking out even now. But the wider Casperverse is a complete mystery to me, so I went in pretty uncertain for this one. The game kicks off with some ominous text stating that a great evil has taken over the spirit dimension, but it will not be satisfied until it rules over both living and the dead. A witch named Wendy has turned to the last free ghost for salvation. Our hero, Casper. Suddenly we are controlling our little spoopy boy, and my god, the controls for this game are some of the worst I've ever had to wrestle with. It's like playing Knights, but if the devs hated you and you had to hold the controller upside down. So get this, you move directionally with the right stick, which on the GameCube was made for ants. Then the left stick is how you pitch and turn. Then, for whatever reason, left trigger makes you move forward, but it's Y to go backwards. What? I'm sorry, what? Who thought this was a good idea? Rather than being used to move forwards or backwards, right trigger, if you hold it down, lets you move Casper in any direction, kind of keeps you still and lets you freely strafe. I'm just explaining this now so that you can understand just how much of a shambles this was. The game feel for this one was just not a selling point. Anyway, after realizing what we were in for, I entered what is essentially the Mario 64 Peach's Castle hub world of the game. Alright, it's Wendy the witch. Oh no. Casper is no doubt the scariest looking thing in this game. You've probably noticed the voice acting as well. After Scooby-Doo last week, which had the authentic cast and Adam West, these are some of the worst performances I have ever heard. There is at least one person who's having some fun with this and earning their paycheck though.
Oh yes, so little witch, we meet again. Who is that you have there with you? Ah, Casper. I should have known you would go to him.
This is our big bad for the game, Kibosh, or just Ripped Slimer. Our goal is to stop him and free the spirit dimensions. Once that cutscene's over, Wendy opens a door in the hub world, and that leads us to our first dimension. I spent some time exploring the map and trying to come to grips with the obnoxious control scheme. I was also meticulously collecting these gems dotted around for a bit, but we realized pretty quickly they aren't really needed, and this isn't a 100% run or anything. We meet up with an unnamed knight character who has clearly been voiced by Steve from the accounting department.
That is a bit of a problem. Perhaps you can help me out after all.
He tells us that Kibosh's knights stole his armor, and we'll need to get it back for him if we want to continue. I took off looking for the 5 armor pieces, and this gave us a chance to test out the rest of Casper's abilities. He can boost if you want to zoom even more, become intangible to go through certain obstacles, and lazily throw balls of energy to attack. There are various power-ups that can modify your attacks. These include fire, ice, explosions, and homing attacks. Homing was easily the most useful, as the aiming system was pretty touch and go in this one. We found our first armor piece just hovering around under this bridge. I kind of expected to need to fight the Knights of Kibosh to get them, but it seemed like that's not going to be the case. To find the next one, we had to do a very simple puzzle. I grabbed this giant weight, which Casper handles like an absolute beast. We then drop it onto this very conspicuous platform, and that opens up this door and leads the way to the second armor piece. There was an annoying enemy in the way, so rather than grabbing this straight away, I decided to have a bit more of a look around and see if we could spot some of the other pieces. This did eventually lead us inside the castle. Now this brings me on to another criticism I have for this game. I could swear this was not supposed to be a Casper game. The worlds you explore are just huge, and they actually have some solid detail put into them. However, there are a lot of sections that look like they should be for a platforming game, but our little ghost boy just flies over everything. If you combine that with the general empty feeling that all of the worlds suffer from, they just end up feeling as lifeless as Casper himself. Okay, I feel a little bit bad about that one. To put it into perspective, it would be like playing Mario 64 and Bob-omb Battlefield only has 2 Goombas in it. After a long session of flying around and not finding much, I came across this portal. We decided to hop in it and it took us to another sub-world within the same level. Last week I ended up comparing Scooby-Doo to Crash Bandicoot. This week, between having the ability to glide around, collecting a bunch of gems, and going into sub-levels inside existing levels, I'm getting sincere Spyro vibes. Although perhaps more like Spyro if you removed all the fun and charm.
Boring!
Anyway, once we get inside, we find King Arthur. He's locked inside these stocks, and he tells us that we're going to need to beat 4 thieves who are holding the keys that will free him. The first couple of thieves were an absolute pain. I was still struggling with the controls at this point, and aiming my attacks was just not happening. If they hit you with an arrow, you also turn green. I guess you're kind of poisoned. Somehow ghosts get poisoned in this game. When you're green, you can't fly properly, so you're just kind of sitting there on the floor, and they're just going to shoot away. That was when we discovered the absolute majesty of the magnet power-up. That's the one that gives you the homing attacks, which I mentioned earlier. This is just so good. Don't get me wrong, the other power-ups are kind of neat. There's like an ice one, which slows the thieves down here, which makes them easier to hit, but there is nothing better than just having it so your attacks can't miss. So with that in mind, we proceeded to decimate more thieves, and at this point we had 3 keys in our possession. Now we just needed to track down that elusive 4th thief. This took a while though. I ended up flying around this massive empty world without a clue of where I was going or what I was doing. We were at this for a few minutes before we managed to spot this grate that was in the floor. This was our introduction to the intangible ability. You can only use it when you have collected these green glowy things that you find dotted around the maps, and you can have up to 3 charges. This ability does come in handy. There are quite a few objects in the game that you're supposed to go intangible to get through. Sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they're not. But it's also quite useful in combat. It makes you go completely invulnerable to all damage when you use it, so it can be used to dodge attacks and try and get an advantageous position on the enemies. So once we figured out what to do, I went and found a green glowy jazz, and we were able to slide through the grate and finally find that last thief and retrieve the final key. Once Arthur was free, he told us that he needs us to save his kingdom from Kabosh. We'll need to collect all the key fragments to open the boss door. After he gives us our first key fragment, Casper starts cutting shapes like an absolute unit. So with that being said, now we know the general loop this game is going to take. Complete various missions in the levels and the subworlds contained within, collect the key fragments, and access the boss for the world. So once we got back into the main level, we found our next portal, and it was time for our next objective. This time a frog princess asks us to complete a maze, enter the wizard's tower, and smash a gem to return her to normal. This is such a weird game. Again, I don't know much about the wider Casper lore, but after only having seen the movie, this is just completely bonkers to me.
And I will be restored. When I'm returned to my form, I can give you a gift.
All the voice acting for this game was just like going into the accounting department and being like, Jeff, have you got 5 minutes just to bang out a few voice lines? That was Maggie from HR doing that voice. Now, I might not be a capital G gamer, but I like to think I'm pretty decent at video games. This section, however, made me begin to doubt myself. The maze we have to explore here is just absolutely stuffed to the brim with these wizards that have homing fireballs, and even if you kill them, it only takes looking away for a few seconds for them to spawn back in and just start blasting.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
Couple that with me exploring the entire maze several times and just not finding the exit, and we were getting pretty frustrated. Now, to top it all off, I was playing this particular game on an emulator, and we ended up crashing during this maze. And as it turns out, there is no autosave feature in this game. In fact, it has one of the clunkiest and most useless save systems I've ever encountered. More on that later. But we ended up having to speedrun back to where we were. After way too long, we managed to figure out the solution to the maze. Turns out you need to fly into this wall using the dash to break through. The only problem I had with this is the game never explained that this was a thing. I did even notice the cracks in the wall earlier, and I had the explosive power up, so I was trying to break it down with explosives, and when that didn't work, I was thinking, okay, this must just be part of the scenery. I don't mind games not holding my hand, that's fine, but they didn't really give us any clue that this was a thing Casper could do. I like to think of these videos as not just recaps, but also a little bit of a review as well. So I do like to point out when there's just really baffling decisions made and just terribly informed mechanics. Nonetheless, once we finally figured this out, we did manage to finish the maze, and it exited out into this giant tower with Sauron at the top of it for some reason. The goal here is to destroy these 10 little glow stick things and lower the shield. While you're doing that though, you're being shot at by the wizards near the base of the tower, the sticks themselves, and even Sauron is shooting at you. Needless to say, I died on my first attempt. I just was not expecting the game to go this hard all of a sudden. Once we respawned and made our way back through the maze though, and I had a bit more of an idea of what to expect, we made light work of all the sticks, and we used a fire power up to 3-tap our boy Sauron. At first I assumed the door to the tower would be open now or something, but as it turns out, we needed to use the explosive power up to smash the glass in order to get inside. Once we figured that out, there were 4 wizards guarding the gem that we needed to destroy, so we just had to make light work of those. Now that we were done with this absolutely diabolical section of the game, it was time to get that final key fragment from the next subworld. The final portal we needed was just next to the last one, so we decided to hop into our next mission.
There is no hope! I have failed the king!
What's wrong?
This game makes me sad I have ears, dude. This bad Ed Wynn impersonator tells us that thieves have stolen King Arthur's gold and he needs us to retrieve it for him. This level might be my #1 example of how lifeless this game feels. We need to find 10 of these piddly little gold piles, but they are spread out across this huge empty expanse. They could have gone the Banjo-Kazooie route and just given you a bunch of stuff to do in each of these areas and really made them feel fleshed out. But I digress. The first several piles of gold were easy enough to find. They were just out in the open. We zoomed around and battled a few thieves. Then we came across these wooden houses. They infinitely produce more thieves if you kill the ones that are outside. At first I was thinking you had to kill the thieves that you have access to and then perfectly sneak through the door when the next one's trying to come out. It turned out, however, the solution was much more simple than I was expecting. Arson. After we burned down half the forest, we were left with one final elusive pile of gold to find. I spent a very long time looking for this one. I kept coming back to this extremely conspicuous boulder that looks like it's blocking a tunnel. After that earlier incident with the maze and that wall that we could destroy, I had trust issues. I was certain that I needed to somehow destroy this boulder, and the game just wasn't telling me how. I tried every single ability and power-up in the game, but to no avail. Eventually I let it go, and we spent a bit more time flying around aimlessly. We found the final pile of gold. It was tucked away nicely on this little ledge. This level took way too long in the end. It's just so big and empty. You just end up flying around like an idiot for minutes on end. After some more S-tier dance moves from Casper, it was back through the portal. Now I said earlier that was the final key piece, but at this point I'd totally forgotten our original objective of finding the 5 armor pieces. This is where I'm finally going to discuss my #1 problem with this game, the save system. I mentioned earlier there is no autosave, which burnt me when we had a crash. But not just that. Every single time you transition through a portal or die in a level, your entire progress or whatever it is you were doing disappears. That means, for example, you can't collect 4 armor pieces, go do a portal mission, and then come back for the 5th one. Nope. They're all gone. On top of that, you can't even collect them again right away. You need to re-talk to the NPC that gave the mission in the first place, and you have to do that every time you enter a zone to enable the objectives. This is just
Unacceptable!
This game was released in 2002, and yet it has one of the clunkiest, worst designed, and just unfit for purpose ways of handling progress I've ever seen. So now that we finally realized why in the last 5 minutes we couldn't find a single armor piece, we could re-trigger the quest by talking to the knight and get back to collecting them. We grabbed the same one from earlier with the weight puzzle, then another from inside the castle itself. The next one required the intangible ability to phase through this window. That was kind of cool. Then the 4th one was just that one chilling under the bridge that we got at the start. The last one took a minute. It was sneakily hiding above where we picked up the quest in the first place. We didn't notice it until we kind of flew around a little bit higher up and got a new perspective on the map. But with that, we finally had all 5 armor pieces and we returned to the knight. He gave us that final 4th key fragment, and with that, we were ready to open Kingdom Hearts. Or at least the last boss chamber. Just super quickly, on the way to the boss, we saw the knight again, who, now that I have the subtitles on, we know his name's Sir Richard. And he asked us to defeat 8 of Kabosh's archers, who were afraid of the cold. We went and yoinked up an ice power-up and flew around taking them out. Once we'd done all this, it turned out it was a totally optional mission, but it did give us access to a permanent stat buff of our choice. You can boost Casper's total health pool, how long you can dash for, or the number of charges the intangible ability can have. For me, it was a no-brainer. More speed for getting around these giant maps was an absolute must. With all of that out of the way, we used the key to open the door, that has no keyhole, and went into the final boss. For all my complaining so far, this was actually a pretty cool battle. We're against a giant Hydra that hides in the lava, and all 4 heads have different powers and weaknesses. We started with the ice head, which shoots freezing balls to slow you down. Using my advanced Pokemon knowledge, I knew it must be weak to fire. After a super effective flamethrower, that one was taken care of. While we were trying to decide which head to tackle next, we decided just for fun to see what would happen if you charged into one of these things. Headbutt! Woo! So yeah, sadly we can't just bonk our way through. We decided to go for the poison head next, because it has the same ability as the thieves. If you get poisoned, it interferes with Casper's ability to fly, and that's incredibly annoying. This was probably the easiest head to kill. You just use your normal, regular old attacks, and it barely takes any hits to get rid of it. For the firehead, I then discarded my advanced Pokemon knowledge, because it turns out this one's weak to ice. That left us with the lightning head, which fires out a tracking lightning laser kind of deal. It did take us a minute to figure this one out. We realized that Casper can charge up his normal attack to do a slightly explosive version. I'm not sure I remember the game telling me about this, but now that we figured it out, it was only a matter of time. Yeah! By this point, one of my amazing mods had already immortalized the Casper dance as an emote for my channel. It isn't showing on the feed, unfortunately, but whenever you see Casper dance, it's this absolute gem. We meet up with Wendy, and she tells us that every time we free a dimension, it weakens Kabosh. But right now, he's still too powerful for Casper to handle. She then opens the next door, which leads us to the new world. Now, you might be pleased to hear that this world is significantly faster than the last one. Honestly, much less empty as well. We're going to the circus, baby. We get some exposition from this guy, Marty the Elephant. By the way, if anyone that watches this is a big Casper lore expert, please let me know if Marty is a real character or not. I am dying to know. He tells us that to access the boss, we will need to shoot down Kabosh's enchanted balloon. What is this plot, man? Casper spots a cannon, and Marty tells him to find the parts to repair it. I much prefer this dimension to the last one. It's pretty colorful and clearly had some time spent on it. After a bit of exploration, I went through this highly disturbing clown tunnel, and we found some carnival stands to play games at. The first one involved shooting targets, and unfortunately, many cute ducks were caught in the crossfire. This really was, though, just a case of stare in a direction and spam attack. The next at least required aiming. I got the controls, just shoot it. Again though, nothing too challenging. Sadly, that's it for these little attractions though. I was looking forward to another 4, but the rest of them are strictly for show, which seems like a bit of a waste. Instead, the others require destroying various objects in the world. For example, these tents that spit out clowns constantly. While I was doing this though, that recurring nightmare I've been having recently finally came true, and I was killed by clowns. As I mentioned earlier, this makes us spawn back in and totally resets our progress. This is a good chance to mention gems. If you collect 100 of them, you get an extra life, which will let you die in a level and not have your progress reset. More often than not though, there just aren't enough gems to reach 100, and it would double the playtime if we went out of our way to collect all of them. Once we spawned back in, I had a lot more success, managed to get my revenge on those dastardly clowns. That gave us the first 3 cannon pieces. Then I tore through the carnival games to get the next 2. Unfortunately, the last piece is kind of dumb to get. There are these planes flying around the stage that shoot you if you get too close to them. Naturally, I assumed I needed to blow up every plane. But no, after spending all that time chasing the planes down, it turns out you're supposed to use the dash ability to go through this door. First we had it in the maze, and now this. If you're going to make the player use the dash ability to go through walls, at least make sure that they understand that in the tutorial. Anywho, with the cannon now repaired, we just need to shoot down the balloon. First try, baby. We get a ticket half out of the balloon, and Marty says we'll need the other one to fight Crank, who I assume is this spooky clown looking thing that we saw on the side of a tent. There's only one portal section to take care of here, and it requires playing Superman 64. We meet this absolute monster of a vampire called Vlad.
Can't you just give me the ticket half, and then we can be friends?
Give it to you? No, I can't give it to you, and I am not your friend.
Damn, I'm just a sweet little ghost boy, and this guy doesn't want to be my friend? It's high school all over again. He wants us to beat this obstacle course to earn the ticket, and just like in Superman 64, we're flying through hoops. While not the most exciting challenge in the world, this was a good opportunity to practice the controls for a bit. We needed to complete 3 laps within the time limit. Once I got into the groove though, I felt like I was speedrunning.
How could you? Well, you've won this time, but you have a long way to go to get the ticket half.
What?
I will beat you next time. Choose a reward.
What? Forget Kibosh. Vlad is the absolute worst, I swear. So rather than give us the ticket half, we're offered another power-up. I like the intangible ability, so I went for power this time. Once again, we need to complete 3 laps, and this time the course is more advanced. By this point though, I had become one with the terrible controls, and I entered a zen flow state. I crushed round 2, and I chose health just to even out my choices. Unfortunately, Vlad is still a sore loser, and he demands that we beat one more course, and this time it will be the hardest of all. This was a cool one. There are some decently tight turns, and with how poorly Casper handles, it was a nice challenge to try and use the dash as much as possible. Eventually, with 16 seconds to spare, the final course was complete, and Vlad finally coughs up the ticket half. With the ticket complete, we return to the overworld, and we're ready to face boss number 2, Crank.
Casper! I need help! You want to help me? Crank has taken over the circus! You are the ghost for the job!
I love this guy. The voice acting in this game is atrocious, but this guy sounds like he's having the time of his life. So far, the bosses are definitely the best thing about this game. Crank is kind of awesome looking. He can also attack you with a giant hammer and shoot lasers out of his eyes. The strongman told us in order to beat him, we need to raise the cannons, and I figured out that they want me to destroy these 8 tents which are dotted around, and inside those are boxes that we also need to explode. We took a ton of damage here. The tents spit out endless clowns. There are little planes from before, and they shoot at you, and then Crank himself is constantly lasering you in the back. All of a sudden, we're playing a bullet hell game. This is where the intangible ability really started to shine. Being able to become invulnerable, even if it's just for a few seconds, is just so useful. After a ton of getting zapped and scrounging for heals, the last box was destroyed, and the cannons finally became available. Yeah!
Good work, Casper! The circus is free!
After how close to dying we came here, I decided to nab some more HP, and then Casper shows us just what a beefcake he is. Those gym sessions are paying off. Usual thing now, we head back to the mansion, and Wendy opens the next dimension. This time around, the world is robot-themed. Professor Neutron here tells us that he wants us to shut down Kibosh's monster-making machine. That's a lot of M's. And we'll need to power up the generator and hit a big switch guarded by robot wasps if we want to do that. There were these Terminator-looking dudes in the world who just seemed totally indestructible. I realized pretty quickly the best thing we could do is just fly straight past them, though. After we had a poke around, we managed to find the generator, and to power it up, we need to fly around it as quickly as possible. This was pretty cute. If you hit the arrows, they make you faster, so you need to chain as many together as possible, whilst fighting against how difficult it is to control Casper. Once we got up to speed, the generator started, and one of these lights changed to green. After some more exploring, we made our way through these giant tubes on the wall. Inside, I found a big switch, and that revealed our next portal world.
Finally, someone who can fix it. I have something I can't fix.
This cute little robot Charlie tells us that we need to save his big brother George, whom Kibosh has shut down. To do that, we're going to need to collect all 5 keys inside invincible shields. The only way to break said shields is to destroy all the turrets of the same color. This is all nice and straightforward. There are a ton of these turrets all over the place. You just need to destroy them all. There's no order requirement, so we just kind of took them out as we saw them. He was not lying. George really is his big brother. This was a nice quick section of the game. Segments like this, that use all the space and have a very obvious objective, are where the game actually shines. Once we had all 5 keys, we finished powering up Vin Diesel. With microchip in hand, we return to the factory. Now, once again, thanks to the dumb way the progress is handled in this game, my progress with the generator was totally removed, so we had to re-trigger the dialogue with Neutron and once again charge it. After that, it took me a few minutes to figure out what to do next. The game doesn't tell you about this puzzle, which in this case I actually don't hate. At the start of the level, there is a device showing 5 lights in a sequence. You need to remember this order and then fly through the colourful tubes in said order. I like this part. It made me wish the game had committed more to a puzzle style of gameplay than whatever it's supposed to be right now. With both lights changed and the door now open, we were ready to battle those robot wasps. Really nothing to talk about here though, you just need to destroy 5 nests while dodging the wasps. I'm not even sure if they hit me, but we had the explosive power up and that just made mincemeat of the nests. We now had access to the big switch, and after hitting it, the professor gave us the other microchip. Not sure if it's a microchip when it's bigger than your head though. Now the way was clear to the next boss battle against Dr. Deranged.
I am the greatest scientist in the spirit world. You will never defeat me. Never.
Well, Professor Neutron told me how to defeat you. You should just give up now.
Oh damn, I've never seen Casper so angry. This fight took me a couple of attempts. I went in super aggressively and just kept attacking, but with his bullets and lasers, the big robot lad here just completely shut that down. Once I realized I needed to chill out a little bit though, it was as simple as just dodge the attacks until he shows his weak spot. Then you just need to use the strongest attack you have to rack up the damage. With that new strategy in mind, we repeated the cycle and we were easily able to take him down. So that's it. You defeated the evil robot, Pog. Oh, is that it? That is really anticlimactic. Wendy tells us that we have unlocked the door to the core of the spirit dimension, and now that we can finally battle Kabosh. However, before that can happen, Slimer makes an appearance. She's dead!
Wendy!
With Wendy gone, they just immediately Deus Ex Machina in another witch. This time she's called Vanessa. She tells us that she cannot hurt Kabosh, but she can take us to the spirit world to stop him. So, with that being said, we're now on to the final chapter. Apparently the only way to get to Bosch's castle is commandeering a ghost ship. Trust me, dude, I don't know why either, as the game really doesn't explain it. Nonetheless, we first need to get inside the ship. We do this by collecting these 8 dynamite barrels dotted about the map. There are pirates and cannons shooting at us, but this was a fairly smooth process. You pick them up like that weight in the first world, and you dump them on this hatch that has a convenient target painted on it. With all the dynamite ready, we just need to hit it with the fire power-up, which we already have, and that gives us access to the inside of the ship. There are a few pyroskeletons, but I realize that if you just charge up your basic attack, they do not stand a chance. Works. Now I proceeded to be locked in this room for 5 minutes, unsure how to escape. There were some targets on one of the walls, and I blasted these a bunch, but nothing happened. I looked everywhere, just could not see a way to progress. After a while, chat told me that you need to specifically hit each of them just once, and you have to be using the fire power-up. Not sure how I was supposed to know that game, but we did manage to make our way through. After a few obstacles, we encountered what I guess you could call a mini-boss of sorts. We had to beat this pirate guy, and he just had the worst pirate voice I've ever heard.
I won't be putting up with that, lad.
Oh, I could do a better pirate voice than that. Come on, dude. Like, if you're gonna get Greg from accounting, like, at least make him do a good pirate voice. It's not hard. I do like the fight though. He lobs dynamite at you, and you need to get in the right angle to dash into it and send it back. No complaints here. It's just a nice, simple battle. I like simple concepts like this. And now, with the captain slain, the ship was ours.
That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen. So it would seem.
With our swanky new pirate ship and our hat that spawned out of the ether, we are offered one final power-up choice. I really enjoy the intangible power. It's definitely one I've made the most of, so it was an easy decision for me. Oh, baby. Here we are, the final stretch of the game. Pretty cool, honestly. I do have one complaint, though. Where's my hat?
Minions guard the castle.
Where the hell is my hat? They took my hat! Some poor person in the art department worked really hard on that hat, and we had it for all of 5 seconds. 0 out of 10, worst game ever. Also, I don't think I've mentioned this, but Casper is such a downer in this game.
Sounds impossible.
He's always saying things like, "But what could I do? I'm such a small ghost. Oh, I guess we might as well give up now." I thought Casper was meant to be positive and if anything annoyingly chipper. I guess the movie lied. So we need to gain access to Kabosh's castle. To do that, we'll have to break the seals. There are 15 of them in total. The red ones require the fire power-up, the blue require the ice, and then the greeny looking ones at the top there just need the normal attacks. Some of these are pretty well hidden. We had to fly around this huge area and track them down on various walls and obstacles, but I actually really enjoyed this bit. It felt like a good lead up to the final showdown. Once all the seals were destroyed, we entered the castle, and there we found the Guardian of Light. She tells us that she is the rightful ruler of the spirit world, and we'll have to free her so she can open the path to Kabosh. This consists of doing 4 puzzles in an order of your choice. I'm just going to rattle these off to you, none of them were that exciting. The first one has you destroy 24 evil spirits, or let's be real here, Dementors. This was a little tedious though, they take ages to spawn through these doors, but really it was very simple. The next was definitely the most annoying. You have to reach the end of a timed maze, but it also has fans that push you back in the wrong direction. You need to not only figure out the right way to go, but you also have to hit the correct switches to change the fans. Fortunately, the time limit's generous, and despite some wrong turns, we managed to complete it first try. The third was a timed obstacle course. I liked this one. It required you to use Casper's abilities, as you'll need to dash all of the time to be quick enough, and to break through certain walls. You also need to not miss any of the green thingies on the way, because you'll have to use the intangible power to go through certain obstacles. The last was very, very dull though. There's just these arches that you have to fly through within a time limit. It's essentially the thing we did for Vlad, but way easier. With the 4 puzzles complete and the orb smashed, the Guardian was freed, and she opened the way to the final boss. So here we are, the end of the game.
So, you have come to face me. I see you are afraid.
We see Wendy trapped in a cage, and despite Casper's best protests...
Let her go!
I don't think so.
Kabosh refuses, and we'll need to defeat him once and for all. I enjoyed most of the bosses in this game, but this one was grisly. Kabosh flies around very, very quickly, and he constantly poisons you. You might remember that's the same ability the thieves had, and it just interferes with your ability to fly. It can take ages for him to give you an opening, so once he does, you want to make sure you have plenty of the fire power up ready to go, and you just gotta blast him. After some time though, and some very patient dodging, I was finally able to land that last blow and beat Kabosh.
Casper, did you think it would be that easy? I have unlimited power. All the souls of the spirit world are mine to command. I will crush you.
Of course that's not the end. These classic games love their multi-phase final battles. So the key to beating Omega Kabosh is to collect these blue orbs you sometimes see flying around in the sky, otherwise he is completely invincible. I'm blue!
Witness my power.
You heard it here first, folks. I can confirm the blue is officially better than green. That's just science. So this phase is all about dodging his attacks, becoming a blue boy, and then taking them out. Now that all sounds simple enough. Unfortunately, Kabosh is an absolute menace in this phase. He has attacks that are impossible to dodge, and you'll need to farm the green power-up so you can go intangible. He also hits like an absolute truck. On my first attempt, he slapped me in no time at all. Oh no.
So,
Oh my god, dude, I fucking hate this game! For real! Oh, this game, dude. Holy, I am traumatized watching this back while editing. If you lose the second phase, which as a reminder is kind of hard, you need to do the whole thing again. This became my life for the next 10 minutes. Beat phase 1, reach phase 2, get annihilated. By this point, I was desperate to finish. I did not want to play this anymore. It almost broke me. Despite all that though, with enough perseverance, I finally got on a perfect run. I managed to enter phase 2 at almost full HP. I did the sensible thing. I farmed up as many green orbs as I could find. This let us go invincible during any unavoidable mechanics. After that, it was just a mad scramble to grab blue orbs and blitz him down before he could finish me. Blue. phase 3. For the love of God. Please, no phase 3. Alright, Wendy's out. We should be good, right?
So, what happened to Kabosh?
He went to the dark, Casper.
The dark?
The dark, a dimension of eternal darkness. No ghost who entered the dark has ever returned.
Go to the dark, dick.
Wow. I feel bad for Kabosh. No ghost deserves that. Not even him.
It isn't your fault, Casper. The spirits he imprisoned sent him there. You had no control over it. Let's get out of here. This place is creepy.
Yeah. The game ends with Wendy and Vanessa telling us that Kabosh is gone for good, and we won thanks to the power of friendship. Then we get a nice little fade to black.
Celebrate for now, small ghost.
Oh god, the sequel!
I underestimated you once. It won't happen next time.
It's Pot of Greed! Now, I don't know if there is a sequel for this game, but I know for damn sure it's not on the GameCube, and thank God for that. And that was Casper Spirit Dimensions. Stay away from this game, I beg you. It took us a total of 3 hours and 45 minutes to beat. I ended up rating the game a 5 out of 10 for difficulty. The bulk of the game was not very challenging, but the occasional terrible puzzle and that nightmare of a final boss bumped it right up there for me. Fun was a measly 3 out of 10. I really did not enjoy this one. Between the awful control scheme, low budget, and just general jankiness, there is not a lot to love here. I'm sorry to say, I will not be exploring the wider Casperverse, and I'm just going to have to stick to the movie. If you made it this far, thank you for checking out my adventures with the world's weeniest ghost. Let's have a sneak peek for the next game on the list. There it is! Look at that, dude! Oh my god. It's an absolute monster. Alright, chat, let's see which game we're going to be playing in next week. Killer 7. I've never heard of it. Now, Killer 7 is actually kind of cool. People in chat filled me on the details, and it's helmed by Suda51, who is known for making really quirky games. After 3 pretty meh games, I'm really excited to get my hands on something with a bit of meat on it. But as always, you'll need to come back next time to see how that plays out. Thank you as always for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. They help the channel grow and really motivate me at the beginning of my journey here. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye-bye.